that stands out to me in looking at this. It's not just that she's back on the basketball court and it's a relief, but her speed seems to be back. We saw it on that step back three on the first day of practice, but there was a play in the day two, and this play for a number of reasons is very exciting.
Caitlin Clark just did something at Team USA practice that nobody's talking about. And what I'm about to show you changes everything we thought we knew about her second season. Hold up, before everyone loses their minds in the comments. Watch what happens when she gets that handoff from Aaliyah Boston. That speed, that burst, that's not supposed to be there. Not after the year she just had.
Look, coming downhill, great pass, right, to Jackie Young down there. So, dribble handoff, and just moving quick with intent, gets it to Jackie Young, who misses the layup, but fights.
Let me be crystal clear about something. The narrative around Caitlin Clark's sophomore season has been sanitized, packaged, and sold to you as a learning experience, growth, development, all that feel-good nonsense. But what if I told you the real story is way more concerning than anyone wants to admit? Because right now, at this Team USA camp, we're watching receipts drop in real time, and some people are about to be very uncomfortable. First, let's establish the facts. Caitlin Clark disappeared from WNBA courts after a season that can only be described as brutal. Quad injuries, confidence issues, shot mechanics falling apart. The same player who torched college basketball suddenly looked mortal, vulnerable, and the league ate her alive for it. But here's where it gets interesting. Look at this footage from day 2 of Team USA practice. Clark gets the dribble handoff, turns that corner, and explodes downhill like she's got rocket boosters. That's not gradual recovery. That's not slowly working your way back. That's fully operational. Caitlin Clark, the one who made defenses look silly, the one who had people comparing her to the greatest to ever do it.so. Here's my question. If she's moving like this now, what exactly happened during the season? Let me paint you a picture. Clark enters her rookie year as the most hyped player in WNBA history. The pressure is suffocating. The expectations are impossible. She gets left off the Olympic team, which becomes this massive controversy. Then she bulks up, adds weight, changes her body composition, trying to handle the physical punishment of professional basketball. And that's when everything starts falling apart. The speed disappears. The burst evaporates. Her shot looks mechanical, forced, uncomfortable. She's fighting through quad problems that nobody wants to talk about in detail. And suddenly, the narrative shifts from superstar to struggling sophomore. From generational talent to overhyped college player who can't hack it at the next level. But watch this clip again. Really watch it. The way she accelerates, the control, the confidence. That's not someone who lost something and found it again. That's someone who had it the whole time, but couldn't access it. And that raises some seriously uncomfortable questions about what was actually happening during the season. Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Caitlin Clark wasn't just dealing with normal sophomore struggles. She was dealing with a body that betrayed her. Injuries that compounded in a situation where playing through it made everything worse. But the league doesn't stop. The schedule doesn't care. The expectations certainly don't disappear. So, she played hurt, struggled publicly, lost confidence in real time, and everyone got to watch the slow-motion car crash while pretending it was just growing pains. Look at her shooting form in this practice footage. Clean catch, comfortable base, rhythm that looks effortless. She said herself she lost confidence in her shot last season because of the injuries. Not because she forgot how to shoot, not because the WNBA is too hard, because her body wouldn't let her be herself. That's the part that should terrify everyone. The most talented player of her generation spent an entire season as a shell of herself, and we all just accepted it as normal. Now check out this pass to Darahami. That's vintage Clark. The vision, the timing, the audacity to even attempt that angle. Nobody else in that gym makes that pass. Maybe 2 or 3 people in the entire league can execute that with confidence. And she's doing it casually in practice like it's nothing.so. Where was this during the season? Where was this player when the Fever needed her most? The answer is simple and devastating. She was hurt. Really hurt. The kind of hurt that doesn't show up on injury reports. the kind that slowly strips away everything that makes you elite. And instead of shutting it down, instead of being real about the severity, everyone kept the machine running because that's what the WNBA does. That's what professional sports does. The show must go on. The ratings matter. The storylines matter. The actual health and long-term future of the player, that's secondary. Let me show you something else. This footage from day one. Watch her movements, the fluidity, the explosiveness. Her base looks strong. Her footwork looks clean. This is an athlete who has their body back, who isn't compensating, who isn't fighting through something with every step. And it's beautiful to see, but it also makes you furious when you realize what was sacrificed to get here. Here's the reality check nobody wants to hear. Caitlin Clark's sophomore season might have been completely preventable if anyone, had pumped the brakes. If the Fever had prioritized her long-term health over short-term competitiveness. If the league had created space for their most marketable star to actually recover properly. But they didn't. And we all watched it happen. And now she's at Team USA camp, looking like herself again. And everyone's celebrating like this is some triumphant comeback story. It's not. It's evidence of how badly the system failed her. Jackie Young fights for that rebound, kicks it back to Clark, and she rises for the three, looking completely comfortable. That shot didn't look comfortable once last season. Not once. Every attempt looked labored, forced, like she was fighting her own body just to get the ball to the rim with proper rotation, and we blamed her for it. The takes were flying. She can't shoot in the pros. She's not athletic enough. She's overrated. The college game was too easy. All of it conveniently ignoring the fact that she was playing on one leg the entire time. Let me be clear about something. I'm not making excuses for Caitlin Clark. She doesn't need them. What I'm doing is holding up a mirror to everyone who rushed to write her off. Everyone who declared her a bust. Everyone who acted like her struggles were proof that she didn't belong, because this footage proves otherwise. And it should make everyone who doubted her feel really stupid right about now. Look at how she works with Aaliyah Boston. The chemistry, the understanding. That dribble handoff action is clean because they both know exactly what they're doing. Boston sets it up perfectly. Clark attacks the gap with purpose, and suddenly the defense is scrambling. That's what happens when Caitlin Clark is healthy. The game bends around her, opportunities appear, and everyone around her gets better. The Fever desperately need this version of her back. Because, let's be honest, last season was rough. They underperformed. The chemistry was off. The system never quite clicked. And while there were a million reasons why, the biggest one was obvious. Their best player wasn't herself, but here's where it gets complicated. Does she trust the Fever to protect her? Does she trust them to manage her workload, to prioritize her health over wins? Because based on what happened last season, I wouldn't blame her for having serious doubts. Now you've got Paige Buers talking about this class of 2020 representing together. The young and Trent generation. This core group that's coming up through USA basketball together. Bookers, Clark, Cameron Brink, Angel Ree. All of them building chemistry at the national level while navigating their professional careers. And, honestly, that's where Clark might find what she needs. A system that actually values her. Coaching that understands how to use her. Teammates who complement her game instead of complicating it. Listen to how she talks about USA basketball, the journey being cut before making teams, the ups and downs. There's real reverence there, real appreciation for what it means to wear those 3 letters, and maybe, just maybe, that environment is exactly what she needs to rediscover herself fully. Because at Team USA, nobody's asking her to be the savior. Nobody's putting the entire franchise on her shoulders. She can just be a great player among great players. And sometimes that's exactly what someone needs after carrying an impossible burden for too long, but let's not kid ourselves. When she goes back to the WNBA, back to the Fever, back to being Caitlin Clark the franchise player, all those pressures return. All those expectations come flooding back. And the question becomes whether the Fever learned anything from last season. Did they learn that running their star into the ground doesn't work? Did they learn that protecting her health is more important than any single game? Did they learn that maybe, just maybe, they need to build a better system around her instead of expecting her to overcome a broken one through sheer force of will? I'm not holding my breath. Watch this step back three from day one. The separation, the balance, the confidence. That's the shot that made her famous. That's the shot that broke college basketball. And for an entire WNBA season, we barely saw it because she couldn't physically execute it the way it needs to be executed. And you know what the saddest part is? She still managed to be good. Even hurt, even compromised, even playing at maybe 60% of her actual capability. She was still one of the better players in the league. Imagine what happens when she's actually healthy. That's what should scare everyone. Not because she's going to dominate, though she will, but because we almost lost this. We almost watched injuries and mismanagement rob us of getting to see what she's truly capable of. And for what? A few extra regular season wins that didn't matter. Sue Bird said Clark would need time to get her conditioning back, that it wouldn't happen overnight. And she was right. But here's what Bird didn't say. She didn't say whether the conditioning issues were just normal off-season rust or whether they were the lingering effects of playing hurt for 6 months straight. There's a difference, and it matters, because if this is just Clark getting back in shape after a normal off-season, great. That's manageable. That's expected. But if this is Clark recovering from the accumulated damage of a season spent compromising her body, then we need to have a much bigger conversation about how the WNBA handles player health, especially for stars, especially for players the league desperately needs to succeed. Let's talk about the bigger picture for a second. The WNBA is growing. Viewership is up. Interest is surging. New fan bases are forming. And a massive part of that growth is directly tied to Caitlin Clark. Her college run brought unprecedented attention to women's basketball. Her rookie season, despite the Olympic controversy, kept eyes on the league. But what happens if they break her? What happens if the injuries keep piling up? What happens if she's forced to choose between her health and her career before she even hits her prime? The league loses. The sport loses. And all that momentum evaporates. Watching this Team USA footage should be encouraging. She looks healthy. She looks fast. She looks like herself. But it should also be infuriating because this is what we should have been watching all along. This is what the Fever should have been protecting. This is what the league should have been preserving. Instead, we got a cautionary tale about what happens when systems fail their stars. Look at her working that ghost screen with Angel Ree. Two of the most talked about players in basketball right now, building chemistry at the national level. The All-Star game moment between them was huge. The potential of them teaming up internationally is massive. And yeah, I know some people can't handle them being on the same team without making it weird, but grow up. Great players playing together makes the sport better. Period. Cameron Brink is there, too. Another member of this loaded class. Another player dealing with her own injury concerns. Another talent the league needs to figure out how to protect while maximizing. The pattern is obvious. Young stars enter the league. The pressure is immense. The physical demands are brutal. And the support systems aren't quite there yet. Something has to change. When Clark talks about never taking USA basketball for granted, you can hear it in her voice. The gratitude, the awareness of how special this opportunity is. And maybe that perspective is exactly what she needed after the chaos of her first 2 professional seasons. A reminder that basketball can still be fun. That it doesn't always have to be carrying impossible expectations. That sometimes you can just hoop. But what happens if they break her? What happens if the injuries keep piling up? What happens if she's forced to choose between her health and her career before she even hits her prime? The league loses. The sport loses. And all that momentum evaporates. Watching this Team USA footage should be encouraging. She looks healthy. She looks fast. She looks like herself. But it should also be infuriating because this is what we should have been watching all along. This is what the Fever should have been protecting. This is what the league should have been preserving. Instead, we got a cautionary tale about what happens when systems fail their stars. Look at her working that ghost screen with Angel Ree. Two of the most talked about players in basketball right now, building chemistry at the national level. The All-Star game moment between them was huge. The potential of them teaming up internationally is massive. And yeah, I know some people can't handle them being on the same team without making it weird, but grow up. Great players playing together makes the sport better. Period. Cameron Brink is there, too. another member of this loaded class. Another player dealing with her own injury concerns. Another talent the league needs to figure out how to protect while maximizing. The pattern is obvious. Young stars enter the league. The pressure is immense. The physical demands are brutal. And the support systems aren't quite there yet. Something has to change. When Clark talks about never taking USA basketball for granted, you can hear it in her voice. The gratitude, the awareness of how special this opportunity is. And maybe that perspective is exactly what she needed after the chaos of her first 2 professional seasons. A reminder that basketball can still be fun. That it doesn't always have to be carrying impossible expectations. That sometimes you can just hoop. The question now is what happens next. Does the Fever adjust? Do they build a better roster around her? Do they implement load management? Do they create a system that actually maximizes her strengths instead of exposing her weaknesses? Or do we run the same experiment again and hope for different results? Because if it's the latter, we already know how that story ends. And it's not pretty. Jackie Young fighting for that rebound exemplifies everything Caitlin Clark needs around her. High IQ players. Competitive dogs. People who understand winning isn't about individual stats. Young just won a championship with the Aces. She knows what it takes. Putting her with Clark, with Boston, with the right supporting cast, that's how you build something real. But the Fever need to figure that out fast. Because Clark isn't going to wait forever. And if the situation doesn't improve, if the injuries keep piling up, if the losing continues, eventually she'll have options. Free agency exists. Player empowerment is real. And nobody stays somewhere that's actively hurting them forever. Not even the most loyal stars. So, when you watch this Team USA footage, don't just see a player getting back in shape. See a warning. See a reminder of what's at stake. See evidence of what happens when everything aligns versus what happens when it doesn't. The WNBA has a Caitlin Clark problem. Not because she's not good enough, but because they might not be good enough for her. And that's a problem with massive implications for the league's future. She's back. She's healthy. She's ready. The question is whether everyone else is ready to do what it takes to keep her that way. Because we've seen what happens when they don't, and nobody should want to live through that again. Not the fans. Not the league. And definitely not Caitlin Clark. Welcome to the most important off-season in WNBA history. Let's hope they don't screw it up.
Team, I remember they always talk about the senior national team, and obviously that's every young girl's dream when you're on those teams. And they talk a lot about that team, and only like 1 or 2 of us was ever probably going to be able to get a call up to be on the team, or let alone be able to get a call up to come and be a part of the camp and be around the tremendous players that they have had on their teams over the course of the many years and the many gold medals that they've won. And so I think for myself, like, that's kind of what you start thinking about, is like how long I've kind of been involved in USA basketball and the journey that it's been. I've been on teams, and then I've had moments where I've been cut and I haven't been on teams. So you experience all of it. And I think that also speaks to how great USA basketball is and how dominant they are. Like, there's so many amazing players that have been a part of it and have worn the 3 letters across their chest. And, for me, you never take that for granted. So I'm super excited to be back here and kind of kick off this next cycle